I think people severely underestimate the effect that they can have on the world. In fact, it's almost like the disease of the modern life. People have this perception, they have this idea of the world as just being a bunch of forces beyond my control. They're historical forces. There are, I don't know, all these trends that I can't helpfully, I can't resist. I just have to go along with them. And ultimately, I have no control over my own life. And I think that could not be, when you eventually in your own life realize that that is not the case, it might be too late. So now, I've done a video before. I was going to say a little bit ago, it's probably a couple years ago now, talking about like the kind of implicit psyop in television, right? Why, especially if you have this kind of a TV show where everything resets at the end of the show, right? You know, people do stuff, they make friends, they win money, they do whatever, and at the end it all resets back to normal because you have to get ready for the next show. That implicitly tells you something about life. It tells you that life is the way it is, and you can't really do anything about it. But I think talking about TV is a little superficial. A way to make it a little clearer is that all of us in the modern world have basically gone through what is a kind of brainwashing to make you servile, to make you accept that basically everything is beyond your control. And really, that's basically formal education. And what I mean by that is, like, formal education is not like the real world. You know, the real world, you have basically infinite possibilities. And if you do something unexpected or valuable or new, that is something that is going to, I mean, that's the best thing you can basically do. You know, you can be a little entrepreneurial. You can, readjust how people perceive things. You don't have to follow a strict assignment. You know what I mean? You don't have to, whereas in formal education, obviously the goal is all of the trials you deal with are contrived trials. They're like little games. You know, here's an assignment, do it this way, color in the lines, you know, spell the right way, et cetera, et cetera. And anything outside of that is basically a waste of your time. And, you know, normie psychology, like mainstream psychology, obviously, even they have this concept of learned helplessness, right? And that's the idea that eventually if you put a person in a position where their actions don't really affect the direction of where they're going, they learn helplessness. They become basically depressed. Like depression more or less is like people who are in a life position where they don't feel like their actions make an effect on what they're doing, right? So everything, they don't want to do anything. They just sit around. They don't feel like they can affect the world, you know, and that is kind of the disease that so many people have, you know. What's even worse is we have this mindset in the modern world, especially in, let's say, the post-Enlightenment world, that this is a justification for all of this, right? So you have this idea that everything in the world is just kind of a natural trend, right? That you ultimately cannot arrest, you cannot stop. It just has to be how it is, you know? Now this is very ubiquitous in like politics and stuff like that. You know, you're told, this is just how it is. You know, there's nothing you can do about it. You can't have an effect. This is just a natural end result of what's going on. And this is, you know, we have sociologists, we have economists, we have, all these political theorists who will tell you this is how it has to be, you know. And this isn't me endorsing some kind of utopianism, but I am saying that people need to understand there have been so many times in history, in fact, not just different discrete times. At every moment in history can be defined by individual people, okay? I'm very much a fan of the whole great man theory of history. I think that's really the most accurate way. I mean, it's the oldest, basest, and most traditional way of describing history, really. You know, you look at the country of France, okay? Why do French people speak French? Okay, because Julius Caesar, millennia ago, invaded Gaul. He installed the Roman Empire, or the Roman Republic in that area, and those people speak that language because of this one man. You know what I mean? That's just what kind of I'm getting at. And there are many domains now. Like, it would be stupid to say, you know, figures nowadays. I mean, let's say people are talking about Trump because he got reelected, but it would be stupid to say that Donald Trump is not a significant figure. You know, we don't exactly know how he's going to be significant. We don't know. But either way, what it's stupid to say, and this is what the kind of the point of what I'm getting at, it's stupid to say something like, there are just natural tendencies in the world. There's nothing we can do to stop them. Therefore, if any one person does this, that, or the other, it doesn't really matter. Therefore, if I do this, that, or the other, it doesn't matter. And again, you're taught this, again, in formal education, implicitly. It's not like your teachers sit down and say, I'm going to brainwash, I'm going to psy out this little kid. But they just accidentally do it because, it necessarily is this affair of putting a kid in a box, like teaching him to do something simple, but also making sure he doesn't expand past that box, And even online, like I will note, like there are a lot of guys, they'll mail me or email me, or like they'll write a comment saying, hey, Luke, I want to make money on the internet. I want to do this. I want to blah, blah, blah. What should I do? And it's like, even then, when people want to be entrepreneurial, and this is unfortunate, when they want to be entrepreneurial, where they want to take that extra step, they still almost have this reflex to just ask someone, what do I do step by step? Explain it to me. That's what I need. And that quite literally is like not how it works. I think what's more important, especially for I think younger guys, I think it's more important for them to sit around and have kind of real world experiences with like kind of how the world actually works, to unlearn your learned helplessness, to see like, oh, I can very easily have an effect on this. I can do this. I mean, just an example. I was only told last month. There's the guy who made the Yankee Candle Company, right? So in America, they sell these like scented candles, all this kind of stuff. It's a massive. The guy who started it, he has this massive mansion. He remade, I think the house he grew up in, just made it very beautiful architecture. You should look it up. But either way, the guy who started that, he basically made candles when he was 16, just as he wanted to get his mom something for Christmas. And she liked it, and he turned it into a business. And the rest is kind of history. And obviously, it's not like this guy has changed the direction of the universe. But he's changed what you find in gift stores, because now you have this new option and other companies imitate it and all this kind of stuff. And it changes the vibe of houses and all this. But that's really what you really need to realize is everything is like that. There are no there's no materialist thing that led that guy to reach this particular entrepreneurial solution. And that's the entirety of our life. Every little business that started or every invention is something like this. It's often people who happen upon something. And there might be many things that are just laying there that we don't know. It'd be kind of imagine if we had, actually, there have been many human societies that have reached a level of complexity that don't have something basic like the wheel. The Incan Empire, they didn't have wheels, They were great. They expanded over a lot of territory, and you can argue why they don't have it. But imagine being the Incan emperor and then being introduced, we could invent a wheel and do this, that, or the other. That's kind of how it is. And we're in that same position where there's so many opportunities we don't know of for, I don't want to say even entrepreneurial actions, because I'm not really saying this to make money or to make businesses or anything like that. That's not really my objective in saying this. What I am saying is that individual people obviously have way more of an impact on the world than they expect. And people, I think the error, if you look at the world as just being something, that's what other people are doing. I'm just an observer, that is such a negative worldview, because it really consigns you to being a cog in the machine, right? Because if that's truly how you think of things, you really can't do anything other than be an employee, right? And that actually, just as a side note about that, I talked about this in kind of the BS Jobs podcast or whatever, but people nowadays have this assumption that that's how the world works. You have to be an employee and you work yourself up in the corporate ladder and you make more money and you're a bigger employee. You're a bigger slave to some kind of company. And, obviously throughout human history, most people have just not been employees, even if they're living simple lives as a farmer, they have a level of independence that people just don't have nowadays, and now, unfortunately, in so many cases, people get so good at following orders as employees and they get so emotionally attached to the comfort of having a certain job and a certain income that, you know, if it's hard for them to even switch to some other job, you know, to like change their life orientation, because like so much is riding on something almost so inconsequential. And all of this, like the slavishness of modern man, I really think, I mean, there are a lot of things that cause it, but I guess the one I'm thinking today is this kind of like this concept of formal education, that, or which is tied in with this idea of there being trends in history that we can't stop. There are just tendencies, you know. It's kind of like the old thing where if an economist is walking on the ground and sees a $100 bill, he says, no, that's not there, because if there were a $100 bill on the ground, someone would have already picked it up, right? That's kind of the mindset. Like it's like good things happen to them and they have to explain why it can't happen, or why I can't do this, why I can't blah blah blah. And that's when you're in the domain of like pure coping, you know. I did a video on like free will and stuff like that, and I said like people often act like, you know, it's a big red pill to believe that there's no free will. Actually, it's just the opposite. It's actually it's very comforting for people to not believe in free will, because it ultimately means like I don't have to be responsible for what I do or don't do. Okay, I don't have to worry about, oh, like I've been sitting around working like a simple job that doesn't matter. I'm just an employee. Oh, I couldn't have done anything else, you know. I'm safe where I am. I'm the best I could possibly be. And you know, it's a frightening feeling, no matter how I guess like impactful you are, that like you're not there. You know what I mean? You're not 100%. I'm not 100%. You're not 100% like what you could be doing. And so, you know, just remember that when you're, I don't know, hustling or whatever. Either way, that's it. I gotta go.